You were saying about praying God to help you find your pants, and you said there were higher levels.
Yeah, okay.
So I want to hear about the higher levels.
So the higher levels is, there's this myth or this story that Shiva says, look, a devotee is in conversation with Shiva. It's like after he dies, and he's like, why do you do this stuff, God? And he says, isn't it true that being free from, wanting things your way is the easiest way to be surrendered? And he says, yeah. He says, then why do you answer people's prayers? Why do you encourage them to pray to you to get their way? If really it's better if they just surrender and be present to whatever it is and live it through that way. In the story, he says, I give people what they want, so they'll want what I have to give. So he goes on and he says, every time when somebody prays to me, they put their attention on me. When they put their attention on me, they feel loved. Then either they get what they want, and then they feel good about it, or they don't get what they want, and they feel bad about it, but then they go back to me again and think about me again and ask again. And then every time when they think about a loving presence who's present with them, they develop an ability to feel that love, to feel me. And that's the whole reason I even instituted prayer to begin with. So that's a myth. But that's where it gets to higher level. Because if you're constantly saying, oh, there's a source higher than me, than my thinking mind, that's living all this, and that's what I'm asking, then you're bringing your attention to it. Frankly, the magic part of it, in terms of asking for jobs and all that, that's good, but it doesn't always work.
No.
And so it's like, it's better to hire a career counselor or something, like, if you want a good job. There's people who are better at it than God is.
Or sometimes it may take a while, and then 5 years later you get the job
Yeah.
perfect, and you go,
Both ends.
it worked.
Both ends, right. You do all of it. Why not? And I think there's a part of us that can do nothing else, frankly. It's easy to dismiss it, but then when your loved one, you come home, and they're not home, and you find out they had an accident on the freeway and they're in the hospital. How quickly do you go, oh, please, let them be okay. Please, God, let them be okay. Please, 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 please. So they say there's no atheists in foxholes. So we're getting,
thank you, Krishna.
Thank you. So we're getting close to the end of the night. Yes, Laura.
I wanted to throw the opposite perspective on what Andrew said, because that's sort of been my experience, and this is what you've said really clarifies a lot of things for me about devotion. Devotion has been something that I have longed to have, but always felt it was just a little bit out of reach. And now I realize exactly why. What you said about the Holy Spirit, I can see that I've gone through most of my life not trusting myself,
right.
Not trusting my intuition.
Right.
And in the last year, the last year particularly, but the last 2 years, I've started to come through a process where I've learned to trust myself just a little bit, and I've started to tap into that synchronicity, but there's still these huge blocks of self-doubt that are standing there in the way. And I've started to be able to, on some occasions, taste that devotion, but usually it's out of reach, and usually I can't get it. And it's so informative to see that's exactly why.
Beautiful.
And I wanted to say something else also about mutuality, because I'm realizing that, that devotion being out of reach for me, because I was so self-deprecating that I couldn't allow myself that intuition.
Yes.
Well, I don't think I could have come to a point at which I started to redeem that, I started to integrate that, if I hadn't had other people who loved me,
Definitely.
who said, you're of value.
Definitely. Thank you. Sangha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not yet? At the end.
The very end.
Are we near the end? Is there anything? I mean, are you guys okay with going till 9:30?
Yeah. I am.
Okay, good.
Sure.
So,
Question?
yes. Cynthia.
So I've always been devotional, but it seems now, apparently I've been rotting into the core wound
Yes.
awareness. And one part of my experience is I can't find the capacity for that devotion, and I feel so alone.
Yes.
And I wonder if you might talk about that.
Yes.
Good question.
Yeah. So devotion is God is other. And in non-dual devotion, it's a paradoxical other. It's the other the same way that everybody's other. Van is other than me, but not really. We're one, and we're not one. So it's other. Sometimes the guidance, when it comes to the core wound, particularly, God as other, or the guru as other, carries you to the wound and drops you off, and is gone. Leads you there. And then the form that God takes is the wound itself.
Yeah.
So you must be in devotion to the wound. Drop into the wound. The yearning that's never fulfilled is the yearning of devotion. And you never really have to leave the wound again. After a while, when it becomes the conscious wound, it's possible to be in devotion to outward forms again. But the deepest devotion is that wound. Is the yearning. Is that love. That is the conscious one.
Oh.
The compassion, that is the conscious one. So I love the imagery, it's Christian imagery, but the Sacred Heart of Christ. You know, it opens up and there's this heart that's bleeding with this, the thorns, right? Same thing, Mary's got one too. Okay. I think I'd like to hear from you. If you're up for talking, are you? No? Susanna? Can you talk a little bit about the wound and devotion? If you don't want to, then it's okay. I feel like you can speak about it. No?
Well, I mean, I guess just what you said is exactly was my experience.
It's your experience.
Yeah, of the second birth, and it was so amazing to watch you today in that, and to feel you dropping into that, and it just makes it expand more and more for me right now, hearing that, and reconnecting to the outer forms of devotion. My background is Christianity, and so resonated with everything that you said. And, I don't know, nothing in particular is what I'm saying. I just,
So, good. I mean,
Let's see
the
about
thing about the
something
yearning of devotion and the core wound, I mean,
yes, the realization that that very yearning for God, for the beloved, and that intense love that is flowing and looking for an object of, the realization that I am that yearning.
Yes.
So every time and that yearning doesn't go away, it doesn't resolve, it doesn't, and I was looking for some relief from that. And it's just magnified, it's just getting bigger and bigger. But I can turn to that always and know that is the beloved and that is who I am.
Beautiful.
I mean, there's a Sufi story. And these, like these stories where they go to heaven and complain to God. There's a Sufi story where there was a guy who would go to mosque, and every time when he'd go into the mosque, there would be a man outside, a beggar, who was evidently a Sufi. He was a devout man, and he would be crying and saying, I yearn for you, Allah. I yearn for you. I yearn for you, beloved one. I yearn for you. I yearn for you all day. And so this guy would go in and do his prayers, and he'd hear it as he's doing his prayers, and he'd leave, and the guy would be there. The next day he'd go, and the guy was still there, and the next day, and the next day. And he would get really annoyed with this. And then one day he died. So God said, you can ask me anything you want. And he says, you're supposed to answer the prayers and come to the people who call on you. And every day I go in, this guy, and he really seemed like a devout guy. He was saying he was yearning for you, and you didn't come to him because the next day he was still there yearning for you more and yearning for. So he goes, why didn't you answer him? And he said, I did. I increased his yearning. I was there in his yearning, and that's why he yearned more every day. So there's something about the very state of devotion is the God that we want. The very love, the state of love, is what we're wanting, is what we're loving. Because it's all one non-separate reality. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to share? Any questions? Yes, Heather.
Just something brief that's come up is, what part of who you think you are you prepared to give up?
Say it again?
What part of who you think you are you prepared to give up? And because we can't do this awakening thing as our limited self. We have to give up too much. It's too big, it's too hard, I won't do it for me, but I'll do it for something bigger. And it's my devotion to that something bigger that I will give up everything I am. So now you can try to explain that.
Doesn't sound like it needs an explanation. Thank you, Heather. So let's see. I mean, my experience with devotion is that you become more and more of what it is that you're devoted to. So there's a mystic who, I mean, for me, suddenly became important about 3 or 4 years ago through a series of synchronicities. Ibn Arabi. And he's like this non-dual Sufi. He's like totally non-dual and totally devotional. And he's quite a genius. But I mean, he described some things that actually were happening to me, and I suddenly went, oh my goodness, this is somebody's talking about it. The understanding is that whatever you're devoted to is a limited form of what is, in essence, this unknowable mystery. And the reason that you're attracted to it is because it's a quality that's in yourself, in your higher soul nature, your future self. That's calling you to it, to merge with it, embody it, claim it, and be it. But not in an egoic sense, not in a, I'm going to claim it. That's great for embodied human awakening. But in terms of devotion, I'm going to love it so much that I forget myself so totally that it starts living me. And it's just more like this artistic thing. And once I do that, then my higher self is now living through me more fully. And then there's the next quality that I'm devoted to, and the next quality that I'm devoted to, and the next one, and the next one. And there's infinite names of God, but none of them are God. They're all qualities, they're all limited windows of that. So my experience is that more and more and more of my divine nature becomes integrated into my being, into who I am. And it does take a kind of getting out of the way. It does take a kind of losing even my connection to God, like losing my whole way of what I am or who I am, not knowing kind of what's what, and just being in devotion to that. And then I find myself resurrected with that quality as part and parcel of who I am, more and more. Very abstract. I don't know if it makes sense.
Beautiful description.
Is it?
Yeah, that's
Does that make
great.
sense?
Yeah.
That's great.
Okay.
Dare to grasp the means.
Yes. Dare to fall in love with the means of your own devotion. Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of interesting. It does fit in with this language of future self, because it's basically saying that there's all kinds of qualities. I mean, okay, Ibn Arabi talks about it this way, and it gets pretty theoretical, and I hope it doesn't get too heady, but I'll give it a try, and let's see if it stays somewhat in the heart, okay? The unmanifest beingness, God, has pure potentiality in it, like every possibility is there in seed form, all of it. And he said, well, he says right out, this is a myth, this is not exactly how it is, I have to put it into words somehow. So I'll give you a story. The unknowable, unexplainable, mysterious one has all this infinite potential. And that infinite potential is him or her, and yet isn't. It's just the potential. And he yearns for it to be seen. I was a hidden treasure that no one could see, and that's why I created the universe. So it yearns for this potential, and the potential itself, all the potential in it, that's us, yearns to be seen, right? And he sighed a sigh of compassion, feeling all his potential yearning to be seen. And that sigh, which in Hebrew, Arabic, and Greek is all breath, wind, spirit, enlivened all that potential. And all that potential are qualities that are in, or divine qualities, they're qualities in that. And a unique, the way it manifested, according to this way of looking at it, is it manifests as unique dyads, but a unique set of divine qualities. And divine qualities are wrathful qualities, peaceful qualities, loving qualities, forceful qualities, all those things, right? A unique combination manifests as a dyad. And what we are, you are, is a dyad. A subjective dimension that you call you, and your partner, who you call the universe. Your universe. Because he makes it very clear. He says, look, and I love this part because this is the thing, it resonated because I was already saying this kind of, wow, this is amazing. Everybody here is seeing a different Krishna. You're seeing me from a slightly different angle. You're seeing me through your own eyes. But even if you had silent minds and everybody had the same silent mind, still, you're seeing me through, slightly different angle. It's all partial, but it's yours. It's a snapshot. It's like a, right? So the only place where that Krishna lives is in you. I don't even know that Krishna. I'm over here from this side looking at this Krishna. I have no idea who the Krishna is that you have, right? So each of us lives in a unique universe. And that unique universe is the body of your other half, who he calls your angel or your deity or your Lord. And that's the one that's on the other half of your universe, giving you the messages saying, I'm over here. And when you enter into a devotional relationship, you are uniquely in a relationship. In other words, God has a unique face, or the unmanifest has a unique face in which he, she relates to you. And it's inseparable from you because it's the other half of your dyad. It's the other half of the manifestation. It's like you come into being and there's another pole that's aware of you. That's you. It's your other pole. It's described like Siamese twins. It's your other half. Your higher self, you could call it, or whatever, that's there. And it's constantly drawing you forward to be merged with her. If you're a man, you can think of her as a woman you can think of her as a man. This is your partner, your twin, your real soulmate, who is one with your soul. So, devotion is nothing other than you contacting your own unique God. Unique to you. Fingerprint unique to you. So like, there's this picture of Krishna, I don't know if you've ever seen it, where he's dancing with Radha. And all around him, there's Krishna's dancing with other gopis. Because the story is that Krishna multiplied his body to dance with all these other women. And the story is that each woman was a little different. One liked a rough lover, so he was a rough lover. He manifested a rough lover, Krishna. And one was a slow lover, so he manifested. One was really sweet and shy and bashful, so she wanted a bashful Krishna. So it's like, all of the Krishnas were different, right? So this is, when you ask in India, what is it? They said, God comes to each soul as exactly what the soul needs. As every person, God comes to you as, so you're the lock, and your unique Lord is the key. Or you're the key and she's the lock, male or female, whatever it is. So it's perfect for you because it's not separate from you. It's part of what's manifested. And what happens is God wanted to be known uniquely, like the story of me finding God and all that. That's not anybody else's story. I'm seeing God like nobody else sees God. And God wanted that particular version of him to be seen. And that's why he made me, so he could be seen. And I wanted to be seen because I was pure potential. And that's why I'm alive, so I can be seen. And we're all here to be seen. God wants to be seen, or you could say this divine partner wants to be seen, and needs you in order to be seen. And that's why you're here. And you need to be seen, and that's why you're manifest. I mean, Arabi says something like, I don't know who should thank who. It's like, I wouldn't be manifest if it wasn't for you, but you wouldn't be seen if it wasn't for me. So, and this is total non-duality, because now the one you're looking at is you, and the one that's calling you forward is you, and the completion of your devotion is merging with that one and embodying that one, which is your future self, according to this teaching. And all of that is manifested directly from this unmanifest, mysterious, who knows what it is thing. So I don't know. Is that overly heady, or is that useful? Oh, okay, good. It speaks to my heart. Yeah. Thank you so much. We're over time. Oh, Sandra, good. So, okay.
Before I say what I was going to say, I want to say thank you, Krishna, for a most delicious discourse.
Yeah.
Really. So good. So good.